Hey there, all you beautiful souls. I hope your day has been absolutely fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you back for yet another exciting episode of What If Naruto Was the Descendant of Scorpion. Don't forget to pay a visit to the author of this captivating fanfiction and show them some love. You'll find the link waiting for you down in the description. Uzumaki Naruto sacrificed his life to protect a precious person, but instead of going to the afterlife, Naruto finds himself face to face with the remains of a soul that was locked away deep within his own soul. A soul filled with fury and vengeance of a family and clan that was taken from him. How will this chance meeting change Naruto, and will it be for better? If this what if is sparking your curiosity, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts. And while you're at it, don't miss out on exploring the plethora of other intriguing what ifs available on this very channel. Alright, let's not keep you waiting any longer, let's dive right into this thought-provoking video. Tenzaku Town. Yes, I know, Teya. This is so fucking annoying. Teya shouted as skidded against the glass of the building with Haku in her arms, before she leapt off the building and down towards the ground, with the Shiva Replicant and the Draman Replicant charging down the building after them. I wasn't expecting not to be able to use chakra. Haku exclaimed guiltily as Teya landed on the roof that sat next to the hotel building, her feet skidding against the surface of it. Not you beautiful, Teya said with a grin before the pair saw the Draman Replicant leap off of the building towards them with his club in the air, ready to swing down onto them. But I can't have you fight without chakra. Teya shouted as she quickly dashed backwards to avoid the strike from Draman, which caused the Replicant demon to smash through the roof wall. Teya then saw the Shiva Replicant launch herself off the side of the hotel building towards them at a fast rate. So in short, I'm going to need you to stay safe and stay hidden. Teya said before she tossed the protesting Haku as hard as she could away off of the roof, put her flute to her mouth, and played a quick tune before she shouted Odoedo. Fosu Shuha, sound art. Force wave. The Shiva Replicant slammed into the wave of chakra, its three-digit hands fighting against the wave, before it was forcefully sent backwards into the hotel building, crashing through it. Teya then noticed the Draman Replicant leaping out of the hole it made in the roof and falling towards her, its club arm high in the air. Teya played a harsher tune, then shouted Odoedo. Heido Shigeki, sound art. Hard impact. Several invisible fists rammed into the body of the Replicant demon, which sent him soaring backwards into the air, before it fell back into the hole it made. Teya barely turned around to face Haku when the area in front of her exploded, and from out of it was a very large muscular being with dark green see-through skin with yellow veins spreading across their bodies, with three glowing yellow eyes that were lined like a triangle, with chains around its left arm, and a very large orb in its hand. It was the Replicant of Molich, another fairly strong Oni. The Molich Replicant swung its left arm down towards Teya, who barely managed to avoid the swing, but the moment the swing missed and landed on the roof, Teya fell through the roof and down into the main floor of the building with a groan, before she quickly rolled her body away from the club that belonged to the Draman Replicant. Teya flipped to her feet and ran towards the window and leapt through it with a crash, then rolled to her feet and shouted Odoedo. Tsukinikaru, sound art. Pierce through. Just as the Replicant flew from the window towards her, the invisible needles pierced through the demon, but it didn't stop its swing, which collided with Teya's right shoulder and upper chest, causing blood to spray from the wound due to the club having several small knives on it. The Replicant lifted up the club and smashed his club down towards Teya's head but used her flute to block the strike, where while she was able to do it, her flute shattered from the blow. Shit. Teya hissed out as she rolled to the left to avoid another swing of the club. Teya jumped up and punched the Replicant in the face, which caused it to stagger to the side, but it responded with a hard swing to her gut, which caused her to become breathless, where the Replicant then leaned its head back and smashed it against her head, which made her stumble backwards, blood falling down her face. Teya fell down on one knee and quickly rolled to the left, and kneed the Replicant in the head, causing its body to lean backwards, where she then landed a blow to its neck and stomach, before she grabbed its head and slammed it down on the ground. But before Teya could follow it up with anything more, she felt something with the force of a freight train slam into her back so hard, she felt her spine and ribs shatter from the impact, which caused her body to fly over the Replicant, skid and bounce against the ground several times, and then slam into the wall of a house. It was then she caught the image of the large Replicant she had seen before, and it was currently charging towards her at an inhuman speed. Unable to break herself out of the wall, the Molich Replicant's shoulder rammed into her body, sending her through the wall, where it continued to run through three other buildings before it skidded to a stop, but her battered body continued to fly, until it slammed into the lobby of a smaller hotel. Teya fell onto her knees, her eyes completely white as she fell face first to the ground, unmoving, not breathing. The Molich Replicant then let out a roar, and slammed the large cement orb against the ground, which sent a powerful shockwave towards the small hotel, which caused the building to collapse, burying her beneath the rubble. Tenzaku Town. Momachi Haku. Haku felt a deep sense of guilt, shock and horror, as she watched the two replicants walk towards the remains of the building and stare at it. Teya-chan. Haku exclaimed after she watched the house her friend had been launched into crumble into dust from the powerful shockwave sent by the replicants. Teya had wasted no time in getting her out of the battle, and she was possibly killed because of it. But with her scream of horror, she had caught the attention of the two replicants, both of which began to charge towards her. Haku's eyes widened, and she immediately began to run as fast as she could, and despite being unable to draw from her chakra, she was still quick without it. But as she weaved through the alleyway, she could hear the thundering stomp of the Moloch replicant, as well as the quick steps of the Draman replicant closing in behind her. But thankfully for Haku, she took a left turn and found herself on the main street of the Tanzaku town, where she collided with one pink-haired Kunoichi, who fell with a yell. Haku quickly looked down at the girl with a surprised expression, and murmured Sakura-chan. Haku-chan? Sakura asked in surprise. Haku rose up from her feet and held Sakura to her own, and then noticed a large group of shinobi around her. "What are you guys doing here?" Haku asked her. "And why such a large group?" Sakura opened her mouth to reply, but Kakashi stepped up and said, "Haku-sen. We're here to bring Naruto back to Konoha." "Back to Konoha? We'd be lucky if we walked out of this place alive," Haku said. "What do you mean?" Kakashi asked her. "Well, long story short, there's a warrior named Shao Kahn that is in our world. He is strong enough that he nearly killed a god. If he is resurrected, we can all kiss the world goodbye," Haku said. "Naruto-kun told us this before we were attacked. 2 of them are following me now." Just then, a large roar echoed from the alley behind Haku. "That's a shit ton of power that I'm sensing in that alley," the platinum blonde muttered fearfully as she took a step back. Haku looked to the alley and muttered, "We either need to fight or run." "We don't run," a pearl-eyed Kunoichi said to her with cold eyes. "You said Naruto-kun was attacked. Where were you located?" "Naruto-kun?" Haku thought to herself before she vocally replied, "The hotel. It's the large building over." Haku didn't even get the chance to finish due to the girl suddenly leaping onto the roof and running off. "Hinata," the red-eyed Kunoichi said, who Haku recognized as the Genjutsu mistress, Yuhi Kurenai. "Kiba, Shino, let's go." Kurenai was swiftly interrupted by a large roar that came from the alleyway, which was followed by heavy, slamming footsteps. "What the hell is coming?" the blonde asked fearfully as she took a step back, voicing what many of the other shinobi were facing. Haku narrowed her eyes, sweat dripping down the side of her head. Tanzaku town. Uzumaki Naruto. Skidding on the balls of his feet, Naruto fell to one knee as he coughed out blood. "How annoying," he growled out angrily as the replicant of Kintaro towered before him. Kintaro was tough. Naruto knew this from his past battles with him, but he was far tougher than before. He felt like he was fighting Goro and not the kitty cat he used to beat consistently. Naruto rose to his feet and maneuvered against the quick jabs from the replicant's forearms, before he leapt up and kneed the replication in the head, which caused it to stumble backwards. "Come here," Naruto shouted as he shot his Hellfire Kunai towards the Kintaro replicant, but said replicant caught it and pulled Naruto sharply towards him. Naruto released the hold of his chain to avoid a punch from the lower right arm, then punched the replicant twice in the stomach, before leaping up and punching it in the face, which made it stumble back. Naruto then flickered behind the figure while summoning his Hellfire chain and leapt into the air, and wrapped the chain around its neck activated the flames. The replicant screamed as flames shot up around its neck, but then it ran backwards and slammed against the wall back first, sending Naruto crashing through the wall, but the shinobi kept his chains wrapped around its neck. The replicant then leapt into air and slammed down on the ground back first, which sent both it and Naruto crashing down several floors, before slamming into a wooden desk, but again, Naruto refused to let go of the chains. He began to pull at the chains hard, causing the flames to become stronger, despite the pain he was in. The replicant rose to his feet and leapt into the air and smashed Naruto against the ceiling, before it turned down and slammed through the floor again, sending the pair crashing through 5 more floors before colliding into another desk. This time, however, Naruto's grip did slack just enough for Kintaro to grab Naruto and toss him over his shoulder and against the wall, which caused a crater against the wall, but despite the pain, Naruto flickered from existence and appeared on the left of the replicant in the air, and landed a strong punch to the replicant's face, which made it stumble on one leg. Naruto landed on the ground and grabbed its extended leg and pulled it forward, and landed another hard fist to its face, which sent it down to the ground, before Naruto twisted his body and landed a hellfire-covered elbow on its face, which sent both of them crashing through the floor and landing in the lobby of the hotel, with Kintaro hitting the ground first, and Naruto's hellfire-covered knees slamming into his chest moments later. Naruto summoned a kunai into his hand and stabbed downward, but his hand was grabbed by the replicant, and then tossed away, sending Naruto colliding against a wall and down on the ground. Naruto shook his head and heard the replicant crash through the ceiling, and flickered away just before 2 pair of shokin feet could crush him, and appeared nearly across the lobby. "This thing is very nimble," Kyubi noted with an impressed tone. "I wonder how long you can keep up with its pace." "Same here," Naruto growled as he stood up to face the replicant, embers of hellfire floating around him. The Kintaro replicant roared before he bolted towards Naruto, who scowled and ran towards Kintaro before he leapt up, his fist covered in hellfire, and nailed the replicant in the face, while he got hit in the stomach, which sent him soaring backwards and slamming against the wall. Naruto bounced off the wall and landed on his knee, and saw the replicant open his mouth wide, and let out a burst of fire, which came towards his way. Naruto's eyes widened before they narrowed in anger and caught the fireball, which burned the palm of his hand, before he changed into the dark red of hellfire, and launched it towards the replicant, which nailed it in the face hard, causing it to roar in pain as it staggered back. Naruto whipped his hand forward and shouted, "Come here," before it nailed the replicant in the chest, but instead of pulling it to him, Naruto pulled himself towards the replicant, and landed a drop kick to its face with hellfire covering his feet, which caused the replicant to fly out of the building and out onto the street. Tenzaku Town. Team Kumo. For a horse thing, it moves far too quickly. Omoi hissed out in pain as he held his torso, blood dripping down the right side of his face with his longsword in his hand, while the Madara replicant stood across from Team Kumo, looking as fresh as it did before the battle. The battle between the three and the replicant was so far one-sided in favor of the replicant. With its high-paced speed, its crushing strength, its ability to shoot energy from its tail, and the ability to disappear and reappear anywhere, it was taking the Kumo Shinobi all they had to keep on their toes. "Well, horses do move pretty fast, but this is abnormally fast," Carrie replied as she held her long blade in both hands, blood falling from her left arm and the corner of her mouth. Samui stood in between the two with a detached expression on her face, her tantadron gleaming with green light. "He's not that tough. We just need to stop holding back." The Madara replicant roared and charged towards the three shinobi. "And he just made a mistake. Shocking triangle formation," Samui shouted. Carrie shot to the left side of the room while Omoi shot to the right. Samui flipped into the air and stood upside down the ceiling, which caused the replicant to skid to a stop behind them. The three formed several hand seals as they turned around to face the replicant, and together, the three shouted Raiden. The Kazuchiryu no Jutsu. Lightning style. Lightning Dragon Jutsu. Three dragons made of lightning shot out from their hands and collided together to create an even large dragon, which slammed into the replicant's form, sending it flying out of building and plummeting towards the ground. "Follow it," Samui ordered as she ran towards the large hole and leapt down, with Carrie and Omoi following her lead. As the three fell, the trio formed another set of seals and shouted Raiden. Dendo Dangan, lightning style. Electric bullet. An aura of crackling electricity formed around the forms of the Kumo Shinobi, as their speed suddenly picked up as it neared the falling body of their opponent. Samui's body slammed into the replicant's head, while Omoi's body slammed into its left arm, and Carrie's body slammed into its right hip, causing a large burst of electricity to shoot around the falling bodies, before they slammed into the ground with an explosion of lightning. When the smoke cleared, Samui, Omoi and Carrie flew from the crater that was created and landed on the ground, but to their shock, the replicant wasn't there. "We hit it," Omoi said with a stunned expression. "I'm sure we did." "We did," Samui said. "It fucking disappeared during the impact." I'm sure if Samui was interrupted by the ground exploded from beneath her, revealing the replicant who grabbed her neck and proceeded to shoot off in the air. Samui, Carrie and Omoi shouted, but when they leapt to follow, an explosion of glass came from behind them, and when they turned around, both were brutally clotheslined by the Shiva replicant. The two hit the ground hard as the Shiva replicant skidded to a stop. "God damn, that bullshit hurts," Omoi growled out as he rose to his feet, with Carrie standing up moments later. The Shiva replicant dashed towards the two shinobi, but moments later, another explosion of glass was heard, which caused the two to look to the left to see the replicant flying out towards the Kumo shinobi. The shinobi leapt back to avoid the flying replicant, but their opponent wasn't so lucky. The replicant collided against their opponent, which sent the two monsters flying into a building. "Whoa," Carrie murmured. It was then the two saw Naruto walk out of the building and fall onto one knee and cough up blood. Tenzaku Town. Uzumaki Naruto. "Holy shit, you okay, man?" Omoi asked as he helped Naruto to his feet. "I'll be fine," Naruto responded as he panted heavily while he held the right side of his body. "I managed to beat it, but they seem to recover fast. Things aren't looking too good for us right now." Naruto then looked at the pair and said, "One of you are missing." "Yeah, that horse thing," snapped Samui, Carrie said. "Shit," Naruto swore before another loud roar shook the area. Then the Kintaro replicant came barreling out of the hole towards the trio, with the Shiva replicant beside him. Without warning, two bright blue fans flew out from behind Naruto and nailed Shiva in the neck, which sent her flying backwards to the ground, and seconds after that, Hinata came soaring behind Naruto and nailed the Kintaro replicant in the head, which sent it flying to the side along the other replicant. Hinata landed on the ground and said, "I think this is the second time I've had to save you like this, Spectre." "Hinata," Naruto breathed out before his eyes widened in surprise. "No, not just Hinata, Katana." Hinata turned around and gave me a confident smirk that instantly told Naruto that he had struck gold, but how could that be? What happened with himself was a rare occurrence. For Hinata and Katana to have gone through the same thing was no coincidence. And he is correct. Did you miss me, Hanzo? Hinata asked with a wider grin. Naruto snorted and replied pompous ass, before he glanced towards the two replicants that were now rising to their feet. I tend to be. Comes with the princess territory, Hinata retorted as her fans returned to her hands. Dude, she just called you Hanzo, Amoy said with a surprised tone. Did you tell her about your past as well? Carrie questioned. No, it seems she went through the same thing I did, Naruto responded to Carrie before he looked Hinata and said, this can't be coincidence. I figured that once Shao Kahn came into the picture, Hinata noted. Now facing off against Shiva and Kintaro tells me that there is something more to this, but what, I don't know. Well, Naruto removed his large blade from his back and held it in front of him. I suppose we'll have to live and find out. Don't forget, we have a score to settle, Hinata told Naruto with a grave tone, which Naruto nodded. Wouldn't dream of it. Amoy, Carrie. Go find Samui. Me and Hinata will take care of these two, Naruto commanded. You sure? Amoy asked. She is in grave danger. Madara is a very powerful foe. The longer she is left in his grasp, the greater chance of her dying will be, Hinata told them. We are both more apt at battling them, so we will be fine. Now make haste. The two Kumo Shinobi looked at each other before the pair nodded and leapt off, leaving the two shinobi to face off against the replicants. Unknown location. Yasai no Teiwaya. Teiwaya opened her eyes to the sounds of faint sirens in the distance under a nice and comfortable bed. She looked up and found herself in a large room with 3 very large windows, which showed her above a bustling and busy city with strange moving steel horses that were controlled by red, green and yellow lights. The city looked beautiful with the dozens of skyscrapers and lights, but Teiwaya wondered where in the hell she was. Yo, you're finally awake, a voice said, which caused Teiwaya's head to snap towards the doorway. Leaning in the open doorway was a blonde girl in sunglasses, skin-tight yoga pants that read, Cassie on each side in white, and a black sports bra with a water bottle in her hand. Tenzaku Town. Samui. Samui hissed in agony as she gripped at the large wrist of the replicant gripping at her neck. For the past few minutes, the Madara replicant had been in the air, slamming and grinding her body against the brick walls of the various buildings that passed, and she was doing all she could to get away, and yet the grip persisted. This is not cool, I need to get out of this, Samui thought as she began to punch at the being's face repeatedly, but its hold didn't lessen. She then tried to rack at its glowing yellow eyes, but again, its grip didn't slack. The Madara replicant let out a sinister growl and tilted its body down, so Samui's back was pointed towards the corner of a building, where the replicant glowed a bright purple, before propelling himself down to the building and crashing through it, which caused Samui to scream in agony. The replicant then lifted up Samui and punched her in the face several times before it tossed her into a window, where she crashed out of it and landed on the ground. Samui struggled to rise to her feet, but she then felt the hand of the replicant grasp her entire head, lifting her up into the air. For a brief moment, she could see a smirk appear on its green and veiny yellow face, as it reared back its right hand to punch her down, but then the shout of Raiden. Dendo Dangan, lightning style. Electric bullet. Samui then watched as Amoy's body slammed into the jaw of the replicant, which caused it to release her head, letting her fall to the ground in pain. Carrie quickly came in and picked her up and asked, "Are you okay?" Not feeling too good, Samui murmured weakly, her vision blurring. "Amoy, we need to get her some help, she's suffering from a shit ton of wounds," Carrie shouted. Amoy looked back at her and said, "I doubt that stupid thing is going to let us go without a fight, so go, I'll hold it off." Carrie frowned at this and shouted, "Are you crazy?" "I might be, but I got this," Amoy shouted. "Get her to safety." Carrie nodded and tossed her sword to Amoy, who caught and said, "Be safe." "That's my line," Amoy said with a grin. Carrie looked down at Samui and said to her, "I'll get you some help. Just hang on." Before she leapt off. Samui looked back to Amoy staring at the creature before it all went black. Unknown location. Yasai no Teiwaya. Teiwaya felt her face heat up for a moment eyeing the woman. She was very fit and looked beautiful, even with the sides of her head being shaved, which was typically not her style when searching for a woman. "What's up? Cat got your tongue red?" the female asked with a saucy smirk. "You can get my tongue anytime you want," Teiwaya said with a grin. The female laughed at this and said, "Holy shit. No hesitation. I like that in a girl." "I'm glad so. Before we get to the tongue lashing, where in the hell am I and who are you?" Teiwaya asked. "Name's Cassie Cage. Resident Elder God Ass Kicker. You're in my little home of Los Angeles." "Well, it was before that fucking asshole decided to force a war," the female growled out angrily. "What asshole did that?" Teiwaya asked. Cassie narrowed her eyes angrily and seethed out the name Liu Kang. "Liu Kang," Teiwaya repeated. "He was Quan Kai's right-hand man. Took over the Netherrealm after I put the beat down on Shinnok. We don't know how, but he figured out the way to take control souls. He brought back Quan Kai as his revenant, and then it was all over. They took over Outworld, took control of all their fighters, and then attacked Earthrealm." Cassie clenched her fist tightly and said, I thought I would be strong enough to stop them like I did Shinnok, but I wasn't." Liu Kang, he killed my parents and turned them into sick puppets. He killed my friends and did the same. He went and killed every single warrior that could stand in his way and took them into his army. He even killed his queen and best friend when he found them trying to become human. Holy shit, Teya breathed out. He killed me as well, but Raiden and Ermac, they were there to save me and the few souls that hadn't been taken yet, and after Ermac did that, Raiden destroyed the earth before it could fully be taken by Liu Kang, and forced the Elder Gods to recreate it, while also creating a barrier to keep the NarutoxHarem from breaking through it again. Wait. Was one of these souls Asashi Hanzo? Teya exclaimed. I remember Raiden saying his name. Why do you ask? Cassie replied. Holy shit. He's my friend. He's going by Uzumaki Naruto now. Teya exclaimed. Holy shit. So then it worked. The crazy plan actually worked, Cassie said excitedly. Holy shit, this is huge. You have no idea how relieved I am to hear that. Holy shit. Those crazy assholes. Cassie rubbed her head and said okay, so that makes my comment truer than before. Essentially, their plan was to take all the fighters' souls that haven't been taken by that asshole, and put them into new bodies, so when the time was right, the souls can wake up and prepare to fight the NarutoxHarem when they came knocking. Wait, I also remember that Naruto said that he had died for him and Hanzo to become one, so if I'm right then I died, Teya said with a blink. I actually died. Yeah, and if I'm here then that means you and I are the same person, Cassie said. So that tongue lashing, would that mean this would be masturbation or? Teya snorted and said so, what do we do now then? How about tell me what the hell is going on out there, Cassie said. Well, it's not pretty but let me start at the beginning, Teya began. Tanzaku Town, unknown location. Asashi walked into the large chamber with a noticeable frown on his face, his eyes locked on the swirling Solnato around a large cement tomb that held golden chains around it that dot. Asashi knelt in front of the Solnato with a bowed head, his red hair swaying in the rushing wind around him, as he delivered his report to his master. It is almost time, Kon-sama. Unfortunately, some of the strongest shinobi from Konoha have entered this village. They seem to know of your plan of awakening. I am nearing my awakening, and I do not wish for them to stop it. See to it personally that they don't. A deep booming voice echoed within his mind. Just 10 more souls are needed, and I will usher a new world for us to rule. Understood, Kon-sama, I shall stop them, the Jinchuriki of the Yonbi replied before he gave a bow and rushed out of the chamber. But as he rushed past, he failed to notice that the cell that held Itachi was now empty. Memories of Los Angeles, California. Yes, I know, Teya. And that is what is going on, Teya finished. Teya had just finished telling Cassie all that had went down while in Tanzaku Town, and by the time she was down, Cassie was pale in the face. So, not pretty, Teya added. Not pretty indeed, Cassie replied with narrowed eyes. What Naruto said was true. Shao Kahn is a very fucking tough guy. I never saw him before, but my parents had the displeasure of meeting him and his goons. He's the one that started all of this by invading Earthrealm and killing everyone. If he wakes up, it would start the whole process all over again. That's not good at all, Teya grumbled out. Then there is no time to waste then. We must combine our souls then and stop him, Cassie said with a determined grin on her face. Teya matched her grin and shouted hell yeah. But then her grin fell. But how do we do that? Cassie stared at her for a moment before giving a sheepish laugh. I have no idea. What? Teya shouted. I'm sorry but this is the first time this has happened to me. Cassie shouted in reply. The two then went silent before Teya said, well, we are both in agreement. Damn, I wished I asked how Naruto did it. Cassie stayed silent for a moment, racking her head before she sighed and sat down beside Teya, and said nope, no idea how to do it. Teya groaned and said fuck. That's stupid. Well, in the meantime, how about we have some fun until we think of something? Cassie stared at her for a moment and replied, what type of fun? With a grin forming on her face. Well, I seem to recall saying you can get my tongue anytime, Teya suggested slyly. Cassie smirked and leaned close to her and whispered, it seems we're agreeing on all sorts of things today. I'm game. Good. Come here and let me lead the way, Teya said with a grin as she wrapped her arms around Cassie's neck before their lips collided in deep kiss. Cassie let out a tiny moan against Teya's lips, as Teya pulled her down on top of her, the sounds of the cars rushing in the street fading into distance, only to be slowly replaced by the sound of rushing wind around the bed the pair were kissing on, before the entire area went white. Tanzaku Town. Aomori. Raiden. The Kazuchiryu no Jutsu. Lightning style. Lightning dragon jutsu. Aomori shouted as he dashed backwards from the Madara replicant, who let out a roar as the dragon slammed into his chest, causing its speed to slow down dramatically. Aomori skidded to a stop and dashed forward with both blades in his hand, and slashed the sword in his right hand down towards the left shoulder of the replicant, but the replicant smacked the blade away with its tail, and punched Aomori in the face, which sent the Kumo Shinobi flying to the side against the wall, becoming embedded in it. The replicant then dashed forward shoulder first and collided into Amoy's body, sending them both through the wall of the house, but Amoy pushed himself away after the brief collision, and rolled onto the kitchen floor, and began several hand seals before clapping his hands together, lightning shooting around his body. Raiden. Urashiobu, lightning style. Tempest orb. Amoy shouted as he separated his hands, allowing an orb of lightning to appear in his hands before he forcing it out of his hands, and slamming it into the replicant's chest, causing a large explosion of lightning in front of him. He could hear the roar of the replicant within the orb before it charged out from the orb, half of its upper body missing, and clotheslined his chest hard with its remaining left arm, where it then turned sharply and threw Amoy towards the wall. Amoy bounced off the wall before he fell onto one knee, before he rolled to the left to avoid being skewered the replicant's tail, then skidded on his knee, while forming several hand seals, and shouted Raiden. Dendo Dangan, lightning style. Electric bullet. An aura of crackling electricity formed around his body before he shot forward and slammed into Maruro's body, which caused the creature, as well as Amoy, to crash through the wall and out of the living room into a bedroom, where both bodies skidded on the floor. Amoy pushed himself onto his feet while the replicant rolled onto his feet, and kicked Amoy hard with its two front feet, which sent Amoy flying back into the living room of the home, but he quickly rolled to the right to avoid the shoulder charge of the replicant, but as he leapt up to punch it in the back of the head, a searing pain rippled through his body. He glanced down at his stomach and saw the replicant's tail within his body. The replicant whipped the tail back and forth before swinging it hard, causing Amoy to slide of the tail, and through the double glass doors, where he slammed into the ground outside the home. Amoy punched the ground hard and used it to lift him up, as blood dribbled down his bottom lip, as he raised his head to look at the replicant, which was regrowing its missing half, with anger burning in his eyes. He watched as the replicant walked out of the building, its body finishing the healing process, leaving it virtually untouched, which only made the hate in Amoy's heart build. No matter how much damage you laid on it, it always healed back to its original state. It was infuriating. I've tried all the jutsus I can do. There's nothing more I can. Amoy paused. There was one other jutsu he had left, but there was a hefty price in using it. This jutsu is a killer one. It takes all of the chakra in your body and electrifies it, making you the human lightning bolt. Your speed can surpass the Yandarime's iconic jutsu itself. Only thing is, it is a really killer jutsu. So once you use it, you better kiss your life goodbye afterwards, because it's laid out for you, so you three better use when everything seems lost. Killer B's voice echoed in his mind. Has anyone ever survived using it? Samui's voice asked. Only one Lady Sam. Our second Hokage. But when it was all said and done, he lost the ability to ever use chakra again, and had to pass on that funky hat. Killer B's voice answered. Either death or total loss of chakra. I'll take those odds, Amoy said darkly as he forced himself up to his feet and removed the white plating off his torso, then tore off his shirt and tied it around the wound in his stomach, leaving his torso bare. If I don't wipe your ass off the map, you'll kill me at some point, and will cause trouble for my teammates and my friends, Amoy hissed out darkly, his voice as cold as the winter as he performed several hand seals. So I won't allow that to happen, Amoy said as he clapped his hands, finishing the jutsu seals. All was silent for a moment before a streak of lightning shot down in between Amoy and the replicant, causing a flash of light, as white seals began to appear across his body, each seal crackling with lightning, while his eyes glowed an ominous blue. "Sensei is going to bring me back from the dead, then kill me again for using this," Amoy said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a strawberry-flavored sucker, removed the wrapper and slid it into his mouth. "But you forced my hand," Amoy continued as another streak of lightning hit the ground behind him. "So creature, allow me to show you the forbidden Kumo technique known as Raiden. Kaminari Mitsugi, lightning style. Thunderous tribute." Another streak of lightning hit the ground, but this time, it struck Amoy, who let out a brief scream of agony before the streak vanished, showing Amoy's entire body was covered in lightning, only his glowing black eyes, and glowing red blood dripping down his body, showing in the bright white silhouette. Amoy's figure wavered as it stood there, his black eyes narrowing before it took a step, and with a flash, Amoy was in front of the figure, and struck it in the chest, before he zipped to the left side of it, and punched him in the stomach. The replicant swayed from left to right as Amoy's figure blurred all around it, striking its body repeatedly, causing yellow waves of energy to ripple across with each impact. The blur began to move faster, becoming as fast as a streak of lightning, before Amoy's body zipped to the other side of the large area, before the blur appeared beneath the replicant, and carried it into the air sharply. Streaks of lightning crashed against the replicants and Amoy's form, as Amoy flew further into the air, before Amoy's form lifted his arms in the air, gathering the bolts of lightning in the air to form a medium-sized orb, before he threw it down to the replicant, which roared in agony, streaks of electricity going across its body. Amoy let out a warbled yell as his body flew into the orb, and slammed into the replicant's body, before his body was absorbed by the orb, allowing Amoy to pierce through its body with rapid speed. The creature roared in agony with each pass through the Kumo Shinobi mate, until both the orb and the replicant exploded in a flash of light, leaving Amoe's human form in the air, smoke rising from his body. Amoe's body began to fall from the sky with a satisfied grin on his face, before he took his last breath. The last thing his eyes catching was an emerald green orb exploding on the ground close to the hotel. Tenzaku Town. Uzumaki Naruto and Haku and Hinata. Get over here. Naruto shouted as his spear lodged into the chest of the Kintaro replicant, but instead of pulling him to him, Hinata leapt onto the chain and ran down it, and slammed her magical enhanced knee in his face, which caused its body to lean back from the blow. Once Hinata leapt off, Naruto pulled the replicant forward sharply into a backflip hellfire enhanced kick, which sent Kintaro into the air. Hinata smirked and let the Athenian magic flow through her body and into her open fans, before she launched her 2 fans at the monster, which slammed into his chest and kept spinning, keeping it in the air. Naruto disappeared in a burst of hellfire, while Hinata disappeared in a sparkling violet cloud of magical energy, before the two appeared above the monster, and slammed their respective power-enhanced feet into its face, which caused all 3 of them to slam into the ground hard. The 2 then flipped off of the large beast and landed on in a crouch. Hinata summoned the fans back to her hands and waved them in front of her face, while Naruto rose to his feet with a smirk on his face. Just like old times Hanzo, Hinata noted. Naruto cracked his knuckles and replied that I agree with Katana. Let's just hope it doesn't fully repeat itself. That I agree with, Hinata replied before the 2 turned around and blocked the 4 fists of the Shiva replicant. Both Naruto and Hinata wrapped their hands around the replicant's wrist and pulled the arms apart, landed 2 kicks to his stomach before they pulled the arms down, and kneed the replicant in the face while releasing its arms, sending it into the air. Naruto shouted, "Get down here," and summoned 2 hellfire chains and pulled the Shiva replicant before dismissing the chains. Hinata launched herself into the air with her magical energy with a spin, and kicks the replicant 3 times in the head, before hooking her ankle against its neck, spinning 1 more time and sending it to the ground, where Naruto landed a hard hellfire-enhanced right hook to his face, sending it crashing through the ground. Hinata landed on the ground behind Naruto, and blocked the right upper arm fist of Kanato, which caused her to skid backwards into Naruto's back, where he leapt into the inner backflip, and landed a hard kick to the back of the replicant's head, which caused it to lean forward, where Hinata leapt up and kneed the replicant in the middle of the face. Naruto then landed on the ground and wrapped his arms around the large waist, and let out a yell as he lifted the replicant off the ground, and bent backwards sharply to slam the replicant through the ground head and shoulders first. Naruto released his hold and stood up, panting heavily while Hinata leaned her back against his, panting as well. You know, the last time we fought together like this, it ended in a way we didn't expect, Hinata panted out softly, a grin forming on her face. Naruto smirked and replied, yeah, the calm before the storm that killed us both. Naruto looked back and murmured, you regret it. Hinata smirked. Not at all. Though I don't think a redo will occur since you have another. Naruto laughed softly and said I do. Hinata laughed as well and said, I hope she isn't afraid of a challenge. I've been after you all this time. Both my past and current lives want you. Naruto blinked in surprise. I'm sorry, what? The Kintaro replicant began to stir at the same time as the Shiva replicant, which caused the cheery air to become serious once again. We'll continue that talk later. In the meantime, keep our current partners, Hinata asked. I like the sound of that, Naruto responded, and the moment the Kintaro replicant head broke through the ground, Naruto ran forward and slammed his knee into its head, which sent the monster back down to the ground, before he pulled out the Kubikiri Hacho, and stabbed it downward. The Kintaro replicant grabbed the blade with forearms before it could pierce its head, and swung the blade sharply to release it, which sent Naruto soaring above him and into the air. Naruto recovered in the air and thrust his arm forward, causing a stream of hellfire to shoot down towards the ground, and solidify into a chain where he pulled down sharply to return him to the now standing Kintaro, where he nailed a knee strike to its head, which sent the replicant to his knee. Naruto landed on the ground and delivered 4 hard hellfire-enhanced punches to his face, before he grabbed the head and drove his knee into his face, but as he reared back his knee for another strike, the replicant used both left arms to punch Naruto in the chest and stomach, which sent Naruto flying backwards straight towards Hinata. Hearing Naruto rapidly approaching, Hinata kicks the Shiva replicant away before twisting her body, and using her Athenian magic through her fans, and rapidly waved them in front of Naruto, which caused him to hover in the air, as a shimmering purple whirlwind flowed around him. Hinata turned around and used her steel-made fans to block the Shiva replicant's upper right punch, before deflecting the following 3 punches, then landed 2 solid kicks to his chest, to make it stumble back. Hinata took a step forward and sliced the fans against its chest, causing the replicant to rise into the air, before using her Athenian magic to float into the air with a twist of her body and forces herself back, her ass colliding with the replicant's chest hard, sending it flying backwards through the air and crashing to the ground. Hinata landed elegantly on her feet and closed her fans as Naruto crashed down to the ground onto one knee behind her, which prompted her to turn around to face him. You alright? Hinata asked in concern as Naruto rose to his feet. I'm fine, Naruto replied. Just a little banged, you look out. Naruto pushed Hinata to the side and blocked a forearm punch from Shiva with his forearms, before he broke through the arms, and punched the Shiva replicant in the stomach, before delivering an uppercut, which caused it to stumble backwards. Hinata immediately unfolded her fans and leapt onto the chest of Shiva, and stabbed her fans into its neck, then opened them and pushed off against the chest hard, causing the replicant's head to fly from its shoulders. Hinata landed in a crouch and said, "One down," as the headless body of the replicant fell to his knees and onto the ground, before his body faded away into a green and yellow orb, which then flew past her and slammed into the chest of the Kintaro replicant, who roared as its body grew larger than before, sprouting 2 more arms. The 2 shinobi glanced at the largest beast and said, "That's not good," in unison. The replicant let out a powerful roar before 2 voices shouted, "Kaiten. Takakyu no Jutsu. Fire style. Great Fireball Jutsu." 2 large fireballs flew past Hinata and Naruto and slammed into the replicant, which caused it to roar in agony. Naruto and Hinata turned around to see Kakashi and his team, along with Haku running towards them. "More help against that," Naruto said with a hint of relief. But just as the group of 4 neared them, a shout of Yoden. Shakugaryugan no Jutsu, Lava Style. Scorching Rocks Jutsu. A dozen of boulders of molten rock slammed in between Naruto and Hinata and Kakashi's team. "What the hell?" Kakashi exclaimed as he skidded to a stop, with Sakura, Haku and Sasuke following his lead. "Hatake Kakashi, the copycat shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato, I've heard of your reputation. It is time to test your mettle," a voice stated before Rashi appeared before Team 7, a smirk on his face. Tenzaku Town. UN Hunting Squad. Team 8 and 10. A few minutes after Hinata had run off, the Draman and Malich replicant entered the area, and began to battle the large group of shinobi, which Asuma and Kurenai's team began to combat, while Kakashi's team and Haku went to assist Naruto. "This is unreal," Kiba shouted in excitement as he avoided the large arm of the Malich replicant. Who knows, searching for Naruto would have this happen. "This is no time for excitement, Kiba," Kurenai admonished as her kunai sliced the shoulder of Malich, before leaping to the side to avoid the Draman replicant's kick, and sends a kick to the back of its head, which sent the replicant to the ground. Kurenai then leapt away to avoid the large tree trunk arm of the Malich replicant, just for Asuma to leap into the air, and land a hard punch to the replicant's face, which sent it stumbling backwards. Asuma then bent down to allow Shino, Ino and Shikamaru to leap off his back to nail the large monster in the face with their feet, which made it stumble once again. "Nikiden Sensha," Choji shouted, causing his body to expand into a ball before he began to spin rapidly before he launched himself against Malich, slamming to the monster and sending them both through 2 buildings, but as they went through a third, the replicant gripped the ball-sized Choji and launched him into the roof, sending Choji into the air. Asuma then flickered in front of the replicant in an explosion of leaves, and began to punch the replicant repeatedly in the chest, with his trench knives knuckles, each impact causing a wave of yellow to course through the replicant's body, before Asuma rears his right arm back, his eyes flashing with chakra as chakra and wind began to wrap around his right fist. "Ofunakuru, Windstorm Knuckle," Asuma shouted before thrusting his right arm forward, which caused a huge funnel of wind slamming into the replicant's chest, which sent it flying out of the 3rd building, and right down the road into the large casino building. Seconds later, the Malich replicant shot out of the casino building towards Asuma, with its right shoulder leading the way. Asuma's eyes widened before he leapt to the right to avoid the charge, which caused the replicant to charge straight into Kurenai and the Draman replicant, who were in the middle of combat. Kurenai saw the oncoming monster and kicked the Draman replicant hard enough to make it stagger, and to push her away, which caused the smaller replicant to be trampled by the much larger one, causing it wail in agony before exploding into a green orb, which the larger replicant absorbed and somehow doubled in size, the right arm now gaining the steel spiky club around its right arm. It grew in size and took his partner's weapon after it destroyed it. Kurenai thought in alarm as the large replicant skidded to a stop. The replicant roared as it lifted its arm into the air, the club arm glowing ominously until the shout of Raiden. "Dendo Ori, lightning style. Electric cage," was heard, and a bolt of lightning came from the side and collided against the beast, which then changed into a large cage. The replicant roared and slammed its shoulder against the cage, which caused electricity to shoot up its body. The replicant continued to bash against it, however. Kurenai turned her head to see Kumo Kunoichi holding another one in her arms, panting heavily before she hoisted the Kunoichi into her arms, and ran up to Kurenai and asked, "Are you guys okay?" "We will be," Kurenai muttered before she glanced at Carrie and said, "You must be the Kumo Shinobi Haku was talking about, but she said there were 3 of you." "Yeah, I'm Carrie and the unconscious one is Samui. Our friend, Amoy, stayed behind to fight one of those things," Carrie said. "My teammate is heavily wounded and could die. She needs to be healed." Kurenai nodded and said, "I know a few healing jutsus that can stabilize her, but let's get out of here before that thing breaks out of there and attacks us again." Meanwhile, the Genin watched the Kumo Shinobi and Kurenai talk. "Holy shit, she is hot. Kiba exclaimed with hearts in his eyes, which caused Ino to give him a look of disgust. We're in the middle of a life and death situation, and that's what you notice? Ino asked with narrowed eyes. It is life and death situation, so allow me to admire such a cutie, because I may not be able to in the future, Kiba responded. Ino opened her mouth and then closed it. How could she argue with that? What did we miss? Asuma asked Shikamaru and Shino. So that thing killed its partner, got bigger and got a new weapon, but one of the Kumo Shinobi that Haku told us about managed to lock it away for a bit, Shikamaru responded. Not for long, Ino said as she motioned to the replicant. His fist slammed against the cage repeatedly, causing the cage to fizzle briefly. Asuma walked to Kurenai, his hands were glowing as it healed Samui's wounds and said, "We need to conserve chakra, it's breaking out of the cage." "I know. I need to finish stabilizing her. Another hand in this battle would help quite a bit," Kurenai said before she removed her hands from Samui's chest, just as the Moloch replicant broke free from its cage with a roar. "Alright, round 2, Asuma said with frown before the replicant charged forward, but before the moment the replicant came close enough to begin the combat, a large emerald green orb slammed into his head, which caused it to fly to the side through the building. "What the hell was that?" Asuma shouted. "Whatever it was, it had a lot of power in it," Ino said. "After it, we need to make sure it got put down for good," Asuma commanded before he ran off, causing the others to follow him. The group ran down the path the green orb had made with the large replicant's body, before they found themselves standing behind a glowing emerald green silhouette standing a few feet away. "Holy shit, that monster has a lot of power in it now, but this thing trounced it like it was nothing," Ino said as she glanced at the downed replicant. "Sorry I took your fight, but I wanted to show my ass a bit," a female voice said, which caused Carrie to blink in surprise. "I know that voice, you Teiwaya," Carrie exclaimed in shock. The silhouette then exploded in a shower of sparks to reveal Teiwaya. He now sported shorter red hair that fell to her shoulders, her body was slimmer, and her muscles was more defined, and she now sported a pair of skin-tight black pants, and a white tank top and shinobi sandals and shoes. "Holy hell. Who is she?" Kiba asked excitedly. "How did you cut your hair and where did you get the clothes?" Carrie questioned her. "And hell, you look taller, what happened to you?" "Well, when I fucking ate an ass kicking, my clothes were ripped to fuck, so I had to replace them, and as for the hair, I had to cut it to get myself free," Teiwaya explained. "What was that green energy you had?" "That's not chakra," Kurenai stated. "You bet your cute ruby red eyes it isn't. It's better than that." "Now enough talk," Teiwaya said as she pointed to the replicant, which was beginning to stand. Teiwaya's eyes began to glow emerald green as a smirk formed on her face. "I have a beast to kill. Unknown location. Amoy. Cold." That was the first thing Amoy felt when he came to. "Where am I?" Amoy asked as he rose up from the ground. He found himself in a cave seemingly made with pure ice, with snow falling all around him. Amoy stood up and dusted himself off and blinked in confusion. The last thing he remembered was fighting that thing and using that jutsu, then nothing. Amoy looked around before he said, "I gotta find an exit," before he began to walk through the ice-made cave. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.